Welcome to the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast, where if you're looking for prop bets for Week 12 of the NFL season, you've come to the right place. Stick around and we'll be digging into our favorite tackle prop bets for Week 12 of the NFL season. Welcome back to another week of the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast, where Johnny and I have been laying out 8 players each week that we like, that we've particularly been looking into potentially making bets of our own. I will preface this episode, as always, by saying that these aren't even really suggestions. We're just kind of laying out research that we've done to possibly make bets of our own. So, take it for what it is. Pick and choose what you like, what you don't. We're just kind of laying it out there for you. We've done all the work for you. That said, let's bet responsibly. If you need help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into it. First here, we've got, I'll let Johnny kick things off with his first play of the week. So what have you got for us?
Plain and simple, man. Interested to see what happens in this Giants game with Tommy DeVito in, but I like Jordan Whitehead to get over 3.5 solo tackles versus the Giants. Minus 130 odds this week. Not killer, but no juice. 130, not bad. I think Jordan Whitehead, when you look at the numbers, it justifies that. 7 out of 10 games he's hit this mark. Last 2 games were hits. It's the Giants, who I'd mentioned in Week 12 here. They average 15 tackles allowed to the safety position the last 3 games. So this is a great matchup for Jordan Whitehead. Giants should be down and throwing in this game. Keep in mind, Jordan Whitehead, incredibly productive in the tackle department as a whole. Solos and assists. But we're just looking at solos here to put you at ease over the last 2 games. Last game versus San Francisco, great matchup. I believe he had 6 solo tackles, but over the last 2 games, 11 solos. So averaging 5.5 in those 2 games span. And averaging over 4 solo tackles per game on the year. So pretty comfortable with this one. Jordan Whitehead, not asking too much, just what he's done 7 out of 10 times this year. Over 3.5 solo tackles, minus 130. Back to you, Axton.
Yeah, you kind of like a guy who's just generally got a nose for the football, and Jordan Whitehead has been just that all year long. And defensive backs tend to get solo tackles at a higher clip. So a guy who has a pretty high floor in terms of just tackles, you like to see a solo tackle line here at 3.5. So that's a pretty solid play to start us off this week. I like that for Jordan Whitehead. My first play of this week, I'm going to jump into the Dallas game where I'm looking at Eric Kendricks over on combined tackles. It was set at 8.5, and the line was at minus 130 this week. He's got a top 10 matchup for linebacker tackle production. The Washington Commanders allow nearly 18 tackles a game to opposing linebackers, and they also now have Brian Robinson back, so I anticipate a lot more rushes coming from this backfield, especially considering that Jaden Daniels has been a little gun shy. I think it'll be the Commanders have been hoping and looking forward to having B-Rob back, so I think there will be a lot more work in the ground game for Washington, which just lends well to linebacker tackles. So Eric Kendricks is a guy who's no stranger to 9 tackles or more. He's actually hit this in all but 2 games this season. So sign me up for a guy who's got a nose for the football and a plus matchup. For a guy who hits this on a regular, and minus 130, we're not looking at bad odds here to start off. So thoughts on that for Eric Kendricks, and then we'll just jump into your next one.
No, I love it. Eric Kendricks, every game he's played so far, missed 1 for injury, but every game he's played so far, no less than 8 tackles combined. So great floor there for Eric Kendricks, and great prospect for you there, Axton. Great pick. Love Kendricks this week. I also love Overshawn, but that's a story for another time. For my next pick, I'm going to go with, and I usually don't do this. I don't do this often. This might be the one exception this year. I usually stay over the high lines, but I'm going to take Ernest Jones over 9.5 combined tackles for minus 125 this week. Like I said, 9.5 is an incredibly high marker. I usually try to go for those sneakier guys at lower numbers, but I'm excited about Ernest Jones since he's become a Seahawk. He's hit this in 4 out of 9 games, which isn't good. That's not something to hang your hat on. I know, under 50%, but he's had 37 combined tackles over the last 3 games. Averaging over 12 tackles a game is pretty, darn impressive. Week 11 last week, he had 13 combined tackles, and that was against San Francisco, who actually is bottom 10 in the league as far as tackles given to opposing linebackers. This week, he's getting Arizona. On the flip side, is the second allows the second most tackles to linebackers. So he did it last week with flying colors, 13 combined tackles against San Francisco. On paper, that's a bad matchup, but I can understand why. He hit that marker. On the surface, I think San Francisco is a pretty good linebacker matchup. Usually they're competitive. They run the ball a lot. McCaffrey's back, but yeah, this week versus Arizona, I mean I didn't realize until we looked at the stats how juicy of a matchup that is versus Arizona. They're giving the second most tackles to linebackers. So Ernest Jones, he's been rolling. 2 out of the last 3 games, he's had double-digit tackles over those last 3 games, averaging 12 and 3/3. I'm sorry, 12 and a third. So great averages here, great splits, and since he's put on that Seahawks helmet, been an incredibly productive player in the tackle department. So Ernest Jones for my 9.5, taking the over. But I'm not here for long. Take a picture; it'll last longer. Axton. Minus 5. Back to you.
Yeah, I like that. Ernest Jones kind of thrives in the 10 or more tackle department, and the Seattle linebacking role, both roles, both starting linebacker roles for Seattle have generally been pretty lucrative. We've seen Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner just consistently rack up double digit tackles for an entire season. And now we've kind of seen a rotating cast of linebackers in and out here. But after seeing Ernest Jones go ahead and rack up double digit tackles in his first game with his now third team of the season, you gotta like a guy who can take advantage of good matchups. So I like Ernest Jones to hit the double digit tackle mark yet again against a Carolina offense. Again, like you said, allowing a top three tackle production to opposing linebackers. That's a great play. My next play here, going into the defensive lineman department. We're going to look at Kobie Turner over 4.5 combined tackles. He plays the Philadelphia Eagles this week. He's hit this line, which comes in at -105. He's hit this in each of the last 4 weeks, and he's had 25 tackles in that time. So that's over a 6 tackle average, and we just need to hit 5. Kobie Turner is also looking to face Saquon Barkley, a heavy dose of him in this one, I would imagine, as that's kind of the way that you're going to take advantage of the Rams is via the run, and that's just how the Philadelphia offense operates the best. They're going to see a lot of Saquon Barkley in this one, from what I would imagine. We have all year. This has been a very friendly matchup to opposing defensive linebackers all season. I believe it was a top 5 or 10 matchup for tackle production to opposing defensive linemen. Actually, top 3. I put it here. So yeah, we're in a great matchup. We're looking at damn near double your money for a guy who's done this pretty comfortably in each of the last 4 weeks, and again in a plus matchup. So sign me up for some Kobie Turner this week.
Love it. I love it. I picked him last week on the show. Marker was a little bit lower. Vegas is on to us. It was 3.5 last week. Smashed it. Went with 6. I believe 6 tackles now combined in the last 4 games. And 7 in one of those being a 7-piece. So incredibly productive for Kobie Turner. Love that pick. And actually, on my rankings show, check it out if you haven't already. I do a IDP, defensive line, linebackers, and defensive back ranking show. But I just talked about that defensive line. I love them. Love what the Rams been able to do. Actually, I like Kobie Turner more than the rookie Jared Verse this week, and I like him more than Byron Young. So love that pick. I think he'll be incredibly productive. I mean, Saquon Barkley, Eagles brag about running through the middle, running up the middle. That's just what you want to hear. What the doctor ordered for Kobie Turner. So love that pick, even though it went up to 4.5 this week. Still rocking with it. For my next pick, I'm gonna go back to our boy. I haven't touched on him in a couple weeks, Ax, and that's Divine Deablo. I like picking on this guy. I'm gonna suggest him for under 3.5 solo tackles versus Denver. And simply, quite simply, there's juice here. That's why I like it so much. Plus 105, not much, but a little bit to make a parlay and come out on top with. He's hit this under 3.5 marker in 5 out of 7 games played this season. Last week, week 11, played Miami. Miami was a great matchup. This was a perfect time to hit this marker, kill it. 5-6. We've seen Divine Diallo do this years ago. Hasn't been, this past year or two. But yeah, man, this is his opportunity. All the lights were shining. Then he just went and had 3 solo tackles. And this was, again, a Miami defense who was giving the 6th most tackles to opposing linebackers with 18 a game. This week, forget about it. He's playing Denver. He missed his opportunity this week versus Denver. They are the 29th. They give up the 29th most, so the third least tackles to linebackers with 14 a game. So not looking good for Divine Diablo. 5 out of 7 times he's hit this. It's a bad matchup, bottom 3 matchup, and we get juice for plus 105. Again, I'll say when you see Divine Diablo under, you take it.
Yeah, he's the guy we've been picking on all year. Him and Tremaine Edmonds, Jordan Brooks, guys like that. When we see those lines come out that are pretty high, so I like that. Divine. I spelled it wrong here on the banner here, but yeah, he's a guy that's kind of already paid off for you so far this season, and again, you said he's hit this under in 5 of 7 games so far. And I mean, if they're not going to lower the line, you can keep cashing in on this line. So when you're playing a Denver Broncos offense that runs the ball, I would have to guess 25 times or less a game. You're just not looking at too many opportunities for the opposing linebackers to get tackles. And you said that again to back it up that they allow the third fewest tackles per game to linebackers. So matchup's not in his favor. We get some plus juice. I like that play. Let's see. My third play here, I'm looking at Azeez Al-Shaair over 7.5 combined tackles. This comes in at plus 105 this week. And he plays the Titans. And the Titans allow nearly 18 tackles a game to linebackers so far this season on a per game basis. And Azeez is just a pure tackler. I would imagine that at least 8 or 9 of those should be his. And that's even being generous to the LB2 there, because that would give them 9 or 10 tackles. So I would imagine that Azeez probably gets the upper hand of those two, and he could probably surpass 10 or more tackles this week pretty comfortably. So I like Aziz's line at 7.5. He's hit this in only 50% of games this season, but I mean, this line's just way too low for. Not, I say way too low. It's finally dropped down to where I'm comfortable taking the over on Azeez. I think it's pretty well been at 8.5 or 9.5 all season. So now that they've dropped it, we'll take advantage in a pretty fair matchup for linebackers this week. Top 10 to be specific. So top 10 matchup for linebackers plus money. I'm looking to cash this on my boy Azeez.
Yeah, I love it, Axton. This is one that we talked about before. We agreed on. Love it. Juice is there, like you said. Plus, this is achievable. I believe he had, I think, 8 and 7 tackles in his last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So, odds are there. It's a great matchup, like you mentioned, and you'll see plenty of Tony Pollard this week. Love that pick. For my juice pick, another juice pick. This is my second one, and I don't know why this was so hot though. Actually, before that, let me just mention to all those people who are already subscribed to the IDP Plus bets, IDP Plus and IDP Plus bets, channel. Thank you very much for your support. If you are not, check us out at idpplus.com. Get your subscription today. Go to idpplus.com/membership and then hit enter. And then when you get to that page, when you subscribe for your monthly subscription, use the promo code PROPS and you will get 20% off. So once again, idpplus.com/membership. Promo code is PROPS. And to all those who have been rocking with us, thank you. All right, moving into my last pick here, Axton with some juice, plus 130. I got excited. Here it is, Bobby Wagner. I saw this one. I know you said you saw it too. You
Mhm.
liked it. So I know I have your backing on it. Over 3.5 assists at plus 130. I think this is very achievable. He's hit this in 7 out of 11 games and 3 out of the last three. So 100% the last three games, just scathed by with those four, just what we need, just what the doctor ordered. Week 12, he gets a Dallas matchup, and I think the disclaimer here is on this pick is, Dak Prescott's out, Cooper Rush is in the game, and of course that's going to mean that they're not going to be able to sustain drives, right? And so Bobby Wagner, especially when he's coming off of a couple rough games in the box score, hasn't really been the tackle machine we've been used to. So I think this is a good time to take advantage of this low marker. I mean, Bobby Wagner, I get it. The matchup doesn't look good, but actually, the last three games, Dallas has given up tied for the second most points to the linebacker position. So those last three games count. They matter. That's when Cooper Rush has been playing, filling in for Dak Prescott. So that has not affected the quarterback change has not affected the tackle opportunity. Again, second most, tied for second most in the last 3 weeks. So, Jeremy Chin, the defensive backs, might be affected in this game. Dallas, is pretty stingy giving up points to defensive backs, giving up tackles to backs. But linebackers, it's a good matchup. So Bobby Wagner to be 3 of 3 in the last three games, plus 130 juice. Like, where'd that come from? I think it's a smash play. I love Bobby Wagner here, and let's keep the good times rolling here.
Yeah, I love that line. That was one I also had on my list here for plays this week because Bobby Wagner is, I mean, he's a good splits guy. One that's gonna kind of get right around 50-50 solos and assisted, and he's in generally a good matchup because Dallas is gonna. The pass game is a little fluky, so they kind of have to lean on the run a little bit. And lately, that's kind of been lucrative for opposing linebackers. So I like this for Bobby Wagner to hit in something that he's done. You said 7 out of 11 games. The odds are in our favor. The scheme's likely going to be in our favor. The way you beat the Commanders is on the ground. Their secondary's been pretty good, and Cooper Rush is not. So we'll just see kind of how things play out. But I imagine there'll be a heavy dose of the rushing game for Bobby Wagner to soak up tackles. So I like that, especially with the plus odds you got there, plus 130. My last play this week is going to be Micah McFadden, excuse me, to get over 2.5 assisted tackles. Micah McFadden's tackle floor has been pretty spotty this year, but a 2.5 assisted tackle line coming in at plus 110. I really like this, especially considering he's hit it in 4 of the last 4. Matter of fact, he's crushed it. We're only looking at 3 assisted tackles, and Johnny and I were looking at his splits, and they're pretty even. He's looking at like 30 assisted and like 35 solo tackles on the season. So, I mean, a guy who's, if he even gets 6 tackles, we're looking pretty good here, and that's a pretty low floor for about any matchup here. So he comes into a matchup with against Tampa Bay. So this is generally not a great matchup, but Baker Mayfield has just been insane, playing out of his mind. Now he gets Mike Evans back, and New York Giants now have Tommy DeVito in at quarterback. So his first start of the season, it just kind of seems like a recipe for disaster for New York. So I anticipate that Tampa will look to get up early and make a statement. I think after kind of a down last week. I think that Tampa's going to look to come and smack New York in the mouth, and as a result, if they get up early, you can expect a healthy dose of rushing from Tampa. And generally, so far this year, New York has been giving up more yardage in the ground game. So I would expect that again, Tampa probably just looks to get up early and then just keep pushing ball down the field via the run game. So I think this is going to play into Micah McFadden's hands. And again, we're just kind of looking if he can get 6 to 7 tackles, which is a pretty low floor. It still leaves probably 8 or 10 tackles for the second for Bobby Okereke. I like this floor at 2.5 for an assisted tackle line, especially give me some plus odds on that. So,
Mhm.
Micah McFadden will wrap up the show this week. Thank you, everybody, for coming back and checking out the show again this week, leave a comment, like, subscribe. You can follow Johnny on Twitter at JohnnyFreakinF1. You can follow me at AxemanIDP. Shoot us a DM, ask questions. Let's talk football. This is all supposed to be fun. So, if you guys cash in on anything, be sure to let us know. We'll be looking at the comments. So, good luck, everybody, this week. Again, thanks for rocking with us, and we will see you back next week for week 13 of the IDP Plus Defensive Props podcast.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.